Welcome to the ABQ show, the show where we visit with people who are making Albuquerque the great place to live that it is. We have a special guest in the studio today, Councilor Ken Sanchez, District 1 City Councilor. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Wally, it's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you'd be with us. Councilor, I know the numbers mean a lot when you're in the seat, but a lot of people don't always know what the district numbers are. Tell us, where is Council District number 1?
I represent Council District 1, and that basically is north of Central. It goes to Montano, it crosses over on Coors, and goes to Paseo del Norte.
All right.
So it's a fairly large district. There are 9 council districts in the city of Albuquerque. Yes. So right now there are 9 Albuquerque city councilors.
All right, very good. Now I know you've been doing this for a while. How long have you been on the council, and what led you to seek to represent the people of the west side of Albuquerque?
Prior to the Albuquerque City Council, I served on the Bernalillo County Commission, and I served 8 years on that committee. And I just really enjoyed helping the community, working with the community, and I basically was initially involved with the neighborhood associations. And I just felt that there was so much that needed to be done, especially on Albuquerque's west side. In the past, we've had some really remarkable leaders. We had Pat Baca, who was the city representative for 16 years. Alan Armijo also served, I think, 12 years on the Albuquerque City Council. But I felt there was so much more that needed to be done. I've lived on the west side my entire life. I grew up there. And I just think working with this community, working with the council, working with the county commission, that we've really been able to get a lot of things done.
Well, you know, I lived on the west side for about 15 years, so I've lived in 3 of the 4 quadrants of the city. But you know, the west side is still an area of great change and dynamic growth, and a lot of things are happening. What do you think the main issues that are facing your district as far as the west side goes, starting now, looking forward a couple years?
I've always said the west side is the final frontier for growth and development in our community. And I think the biggest challenge that we face is a jobs housing balance.
Yes.
You know, many west side residents, and that may be one of the reasons you left the west side, is you didn't have the services that you needed. Right. You know, most west side residents are traveling to the east side of town to shop and do a lot of their business. But you know, we've made some major progress in the last few years. One of the big projects that is on the horizon, it's not going to happen overnight, is we are working on having a hospital built, a Presbyterian hospital, right off of 118th Street.
Okay.
You know, many of the residents now are having to travel to Rust or travel to the downtown hospital, but the demand and the need is there. I mean, we've got over 250,000 residents just south of the of Central and on Albuquerque's west side. So if somebody is in an emergency situation where they've called 911, that rescue unit or that ambulance can get there so much quicker, and seconds can mean a matter of life or death.
Yeah, and it is interesting. When I lived over there starting in the mid-'80s, there were almost no businesses, and tremendous progress has been made, but you know, as you say, that balance has still not been achieved.
Yeah, it's taken some time, but I mean,
yes.
It would be nice for people to work, live, and have the recreational facilities right on Albuquerque's west side. And I think the biggest challenge for the west side and the entire city right now is some of the crime that we are continuing to deal with. Just a couple of days ago, we had 3 homicides in one day, including another infant. And we've worked very closely with Mayor Keller in increasing the number of Albuquerque police officers throughout the city and not just Albuquerque's west side. And the goal of Mayor Keller and the council was to increase that number by 100 officers per year. I think it's needed. I mean, we should have probably 1,200 officers working the streets today of our city. And we really need to push and emphasize community-based policing. We feel that's also equally as important.
Well, you know, it's funny. It seems like we're in a position now where we're making 2 steps forward progress. Then we have a week that has, you know, a lot of bad things going on. Just coincidentally, and you know, my neighborhood in the Southeast Heights, the day that all that happened, 2 doors down from me, in the middle of the day, was a burglary. You know, there was a break-in. And so interestingly, I live in an area where there's a lot of lab guys out there. There's a lot of cameras in our neighborhood, but I will say the police were very responsive. They had some data to go to, and maybe, you know, we can catch people, because residential burglary is one. You know, there's the violent crime. What are your thoughts about that? And I know on the west side still it's a bedroom community, and that a lot of people aren't there during the day, so residential burglary can be a problem there.
I mean, that's been one of the biggest problems. Auto theft, those numbers have been, you know, terrible, because in the past we've been number 1 in this country
Right.
for auto burglaries. But I feel that one of the things that we need to continue to do is to work and increase those numbers of police officers, yet we've got to be cautious because we have a lateral program, and we've done a great job in recruiting new officers to Albuquerque,
Right.
but those officers are coming from Bernalillo County, they're coming from Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Los Lunas, our neighboring cities, and crime has no boundaries.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge I think this entire state is facing, and I think our officers, we did increase the salaries of APD officers. They start now at $28 an hour. What happened there is Bernalillo County, because they were losing officers to the city, went and increased the salaries for officers to $30 an hour. And we don't want to make this a bidding war, but we know the worth of the men and women that are serving on the Albuquerque Police Department, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, because we do need our officers, and they've got a very tough and difficult job each and every day. One of the challenges that the city is still facing is we have the Department of Justice working on the settlement agreement. We have Dr. Ginger, who is overseeing that through the courts, and we're paying Dr. Ginger about $1.25 million a year. And the total cost annually is about $4.5 million. But based on what was found in the settlement agreement, it's up to the city to conform and consent to the work that needs to be done. And I'm really pleased with the Chief Geyer, and what he has done and his team, because we are now, I believe, moving in the right direction.
Now, if you have enough compliance, can that oversight go away and those monies revert to the city to go directly into law enforcement?
Most
What's the
definitely.
prospect
Yeah,
of
once
that?
we are compliant, then for the next 2 years, we must stay in compliance.
Right.
And, conform and abide with constitutional policing. But we've got some wonderful men and women that work for the Albuquerque Police Department that go out there every day to keep the citizens of our community safe. And at the same time, they've got to make sure they keep themselves safe, because we've got a lot of crime that we are confronting in this city. So it's got to be a balance where we make sure our police officers are safe, they get the proper training. 2 years ago, I think it was like 12% of the police officers were basically trained in crisis intervention training. Today, 100% of our police officers are trained in crisis intervention training. So we're coming a long way.
Well, you can go many places in our city and see the challenges we face. You go to an emergency room, and a lot of the people who are in there have substance abuse, mental health issues. There's a lot of challenges, and it's not easy to be a police officer and be put into situations where you don't know what you're going to face. And I know increasingly, there's times where cities get a little down on their police force, but I know everyone is behind the police force now, and more so, this is an issue where I think as a community, we're there, and it's great to hear that some progress is being made in that regard.
Yeah, the community is there. We had asked Mayor Keller to look at a tax increase at the beginning of last year when he first came into office, and nobody wants to increase taxes. But we felt, because of the importance of public safety, that we had no other alternative.
Right.
Instead of the number of police officers increasing, those numbers were declining, and it became a serious issue. It was a crisis situation that we did not have enough police officers working our community and in the streets of our city.
Well, and does Albuquerque have a bit of an advantage to the extent that they have a police academy, whereas if you're a very small a municipality, you don't have that as a way to grow your force in terms of from the rookie level on up?
Well, it's always nice for a police officer to come to the biggest city in our community
Right.
and work and live in Albuquerque, because there are more things to do.
Right.
But again, we don't want to lose sight of those smaller municipalities and counties that have a difficult time recruiting police officers. I've talked to the chief in Jemez, Felix Nunes Jr., and he said it's very difficult to recruit officers, plus they can't pay the salaries that they are paying here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, we don't want musical chairs, and I appreciate that perspective that you have that. So let's talk about something a little more fun in District 1. I know there are a lot of parks. There's a great golf course there. What are some of the amenities that the people in Albuquerque enjoy in District 1 that are associated with the city?
Well, basically, Ladera Golf Course
Yeah.
is a gem in our community. A few years back, the community was screaming. Bob McCannon, who is now deceased, was one of the big advocates, voicing his opinion on the problems that Ladera was facing. I was working closely at the time with now Commissioner Debbie O'Malley. She was City Councilor Debbie O'Malley, and we put an initiative on the ballot which provided additional $2.5 million to improve Ladera Golf Course, and it is looking much better today than it was a few years ago. People were not playing there. They didn't want to go to that golf course, but the team that is working out there today has done a remarkable job in bringing that, no pun intended, bringing that golf course up to par.
Yeah, well, When I lived there, it was in pretty good shape, and golf courses require maintenance and capital investment. And I played there about a year ago, and it was a very good experience. I really enjoyed it. And this is Albuquerque. This is New Mexico. You can play golf many days, and compared to other cities in terms of if you're to live in Phoenix and Scottsdale and play at a decent golf course, it's going to cost you a lot more than it's going to cost you to play at a golf course in the city of Albuquerque.
Yeah, the municipal courses or golf courses that the city run are it's an enterprise fund, so it makes it really challenging because sometimes they don't have the revenues to keep up with the maintenance. But I was just very grateful to the taxpayers of Albuquerque that they supported additional money to help keep that course in line and keep it open.
Yeah. Well, we're visiting today with Councilor Ken Sanchez, City of Albuquerque, District 1. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll further our discussion. You're watching the ABQ show here on ProView Networks.
It's that time of the year, sports fans. It's the 10th annual Garden Swartz Great Southwest Track and Field Indoor Classic. It's February 9th in 2019. The best athletes from across the nation come together for one event. Check out more information at GreatSouthwestTrackAndFieldClassic.com. High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every ProView Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProViewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
Motto Mortgage Brokers works hard to give you more options. Hear why Emilio Vallejo's local brokerage is the perfect fit for this growing family. Call Emilio Vallejo's 505-506-9820.
Welcome back to the ABQ show. I'm your host, Wally Drangmeister, and we're visiting with City Councilor Ken Sanchez, District 1, Albuquerque's West Side. Councilor, there's a lot of programs, a lot of initiatives, a lot of assets that the city of Albuquerque works on. Talk to me about some of those. I know there's a new library in your district that's been really well received. Talk to me about that project.
That is the Unser Central Library. The city council named that library after Patrick J. Baca. He was a former city councilor, and we are just so excited about that complex and that facility. People were telling me, why do you want to build a library in this day and age with all the different technology? Right. And it has been very successful. We've got a huge computer lab inside the library. We have video games for the young kids. But how you truly empower a community is through literacy and through education. And I believe that the library is probably the second busiest library in our city today. And when I walk in there, it's incredible to see the number of people that are using the computer lab. Right. They can go in and fill out applications. But sometimes people are waiting to get on the computers. So it has done extremely well. And where it is located, there's some fabulous, views of Albuquerque. Right. So you can sit there and read a book, use a computer, and just enjoy some of the views of our city. And also in that area, we're building an activity center. Next to the library, we now have a dialysis center. We are building a new park and ride with hopefully the art buses running in the near future. Right. That's a $5 million investment. Nuevo Atrisco, it's a housing retail development. They are going to be constructing probably starting the next 2 or 3 months.
And what part of the west side is that?
That's right there. That is on Unser and Central.
Okay, so right there. So it is part of the...
Yeah, it's going to be a great activity center. Nuevo Atrisco will have a plaza. Right. And I hope during the summer months, some of the neighborhood associations can have their community meetings outdoors instead of indoors at the library or in their different neighborhoods. Okay. But we are very excited about Nuevo Atrisco. That is a $20 million investment. It's going to include retail, which we desperately and direly need on Albuquerque's west side. And we just feel that's going to be a great venue. We are still waiting for the southern part of the street to develop, but we have CVS Pharmacy. I will never forget the day that CVS Pharmacy opened. Now City Council President Clarissa Pena was the president of the Southwest Alliance of Neighbors before she became a member of the City Council and got elected. And that's how passionate she was about getting the development there. She came on the day of her daughter's wedding, dressed in her formal gown and Johnny in a tuxedo to be at that venue. But all we still have is CVS Pharmacy. We want to make sure we can develop the southern part of the street just like we are developing the northern part. And the city is also investing an additional $5 million on road improvements in walkability with new sidewalks, expanding the lane on Unser to 3 lanes instead of 2. So we're making a tremendous amount of progress. There's a great deal of development in that area. But we are also looking at a whole, the area west of Central. When people criticized the art project, for myself, it was more about the infrastructure that we would have never gotten. Because right now there's $119 million invested in the infrastructure alone on top of the buses. We've not paid a dime for those buses. Thank God we didn't, because they were problematic. And there is currently a lawsuit going on with the Build Your Dreams, the company that build the buses. And I'm sure they're probably going to countersue the city because they've not been paid a dime. But I think the technology with the electric buses was just too new. But if you drive down the corridor between Louisiana and Central and Coors, it's tremendously improved. Plus, there's been over $500 million of investment in different retail stores along that corridor, plus housing developments. So we've made a tremendous amount of progress.
Well, Albuquerque with its quadrants, particularly people that are living and working in the Northeast Heights, they don't make it to the west side sometimes. It's incredible. That's still an area of town that I go to quite a bit. But if you haven't been there in a month or two, not only will there be more facilities, there could be whole new subdivisions spring up. There's still a lot of activity going there, and that's where a lot of the growth of the city is coming from.
Oh, it is. I mean, if you look at the Alvaro, that's not in my council district.
Yes.
But if you drive down that corridor along Central, the biopark, it has really developed nicely. Even if you cross over on the river, you've got some great development. You still have Monte Carlo. That has not been there forever.
Yes.
So we encourage people to go out and eat at Monte Carlo, Mac Steak on the Rough,
Yes.
Western View. There's some great dining areas up in that area. But that whole area is really developed. You've got Harbor Freight.
Yes.
Is a nice development across the street. You have, it used to be called Pro Ranch Market.
Right.
And I mean, that looks really fabulous. So we've moved in the right direction in bringing economic development to the area.
All right. Well, I know there's sports facilities out there with APS and the potential for some more kind of partnerships, maybe getting some things going. Talk to me a little bit about that and what you'd like to see happen with regard to those.
There is some really exciting news on the horizon, and we've done a tremendous amount of work. I worked with Councilor Winter, who was the APS superintendent at the time, in bringing the community stadium to Albuquerque's west side, which is now, I think, Lucinda Stadium.
Right.
And that has really brought a lot of different venues to Albuquerque's west side. The Albuquerque City Council, and at the time, Dan Lewis and Mayor Berry, we worked on bringing the Field of Dreams, the Albuquerque Sports Complex, to the west side. And that was to attract individuals from across the country to come and play tournaments here and also boost our economy and tourism here in Albuquerque. The next phase is building an indoor complex and soccer fields. I was in a meeting this morning with the Bernalillo County Commissioners and the county. They want to build it at Mesa del Sol. I want to see it built on Albuquerque's west side. Our legislature and the west side representatives want to see it built on the west side. I mean, you've got now the community stadium, which was $40+ million. You've got the city facility, which was $21 million for the Field of Dreams. We can build this next phase of it for a little bit less. But to have that synergy located on the west side with these major complexes, I think will be a real boost to the west side and a real boost to the economy.
Now, I know these projects evolve, but what is your idea of the vision of what that facility might look like if it were built on the west side?
Well, I mean, based on what I've seen, because I've traveled in the past, Elaine, my policy analyst, has traveled to different soccer tournaments. My granddaughter plays Division I college basketball, but in high school, she was playing club league.
Right.
We traveled all over the country. I mean, so we've seen some of these venues where you have, 16 games going on at one time, whether it be volleyball, basketball, wrestling, indoor soccer. We want to not just see one sport, but a multi-sport, including the baseball and the community stadium. In working out also a joint powers agreement with APS. They've got a bunch of parking. The city has parking for the new baseball complex. We should be leveraging the resources that we have available, and that's why I feel this location is prime. Plus, the access to those stadiums is right off 98th Street,
Right.
and
With good 98,
and
you have a
I-40.
freeway, a
Yeah, you
major
got a major
freeway,
interstate there.
I-40.
So I mean, we're really excited about it. I know there's debate on where it should go.
Right.
I personally feel it needs to go on Albuquerque's west side.
Right.
I know the county feels it should go at Mesa del Sol, but they don't have the access. I mean,
Right.
they don't need to build an interstate, an interchange right there.
Right. Now, this growth and everything that's going on the west side, there's some growing pains as well as far as public safety. What are some of the things that have gone on to try to keep up with that, and what may go on in the future as the west side continues to grow?
It seems like we can never keep up with it
Right.
because of the growth and how quickly it's grown. Plus, we have Rio Rancho that uses a lot of our roads when their employees come to work here in Albuquerque.
Right.
And we need to look at improving our roadways.
Yes.
I think the biggest challenge we are facing, and if you hear the news, there are several accidents that are occurring on cores. It's become problematic.
Right.
I mean, I think it's an unsafe area to travel. I know at one time we had the red light cameras.
Right.
I think the biggest challenge that we faced with the red light cameras, if you got caught by a camera, the fines were more expensive than if you got caught by a police officer.
Right.
I mean, I think if the fines were reasonable, maybe $50 for running a red light, then more people would be supportive of it. But again, I'm not sure the will of the council, the will of the
Right.
public. This was an advisory question that went to the voters.
Right.
And the voters said, no, we don't want the red light cameras. But I'm just very concerned by some of the accidents that I am seeing on Albuquerque's west side. And we are working with our state senators, our legislators, in finding ways to make the roadway safer, especially along cores. And that's why we need to, and I know that Councilor Borrego and myself are looking at widening some of the roadways on Unser as you go towards Rio Rancho. I mean, it's 2-lane roads. It's nice to have the roadway, but you want to make sure that those roadways are also safe, especially with the increased traffic.
Yeah. Now, what's the current concept with regard to expanding police and fire protection in terms of, is it facilities-based, logistics-based? Do you have any challenges in either one of those as that district continues to grow?
Well, we just opened up the fire station a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Right on 57th and Central.
Okay.
We had the old station right off of 47th, and Central, that station was 60 years old. And I mean, it was basically outdated, and we needed to move forward. The council supported me unanimously. We did get some dollars from the state legislature. Representative Mo Maestas, Jacob Candelaria, the state senator, worked closely with me to secure those dollars. Senator Linda Lopez on the southwest side, because it just doesn't impact, that area, that quadrant of the city. Because say that in Station 17 in Westgate, if they're responding to a call and there's no other rescue unit, that rescue unit or police officer can also respond to those calls.
Okay, very good. Now, I was reading your bio. I understand, the city council is a paid position. It is not a full-time paid position. You have to have other work. I see that you have some real estate business as well as some bookkeeping and tax service. Busy time of the year for those businesses?
Well, I don't really do a whole lot of real estate. The
Yeah.
reason I got my real estate license is I was serving on the Bernalillo County Commission when I sat down for my first land use meeting.
Yes.
And I'm making million-dollar decisions for people that are there before the council. I said, I've got to understand planning, and I've got to understand land use. So I got the real estate license for that reason and took some land use classes. Our primary business is our accounting firm. My dad started the business back in 1963. We are celebrating our 56th year in business.
Wow, fantastic.
And we've got a great clientele, and that's why I've never run for a higher office. I said, I've got the best of both worlds. I can serve the community in public service as a city councilor, a county commissioner like I did before, and still take care of the family business.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And just, I am a recovering CPA. I have a license in active status, so we can talk tax law and bookkeeping.
Well, that would be another series, because right now
we don't want to talk to people about that now.
And there's been some major changes in the tax code, so we won't talk about that one right now.
Okay, very good. All right, what's the best way for your constituents to reach out to you with regard to if they have questions, if they have issues that they'd like to weigh in on that you're considering at the council?
I have a policy analyst. Her name is Elaine Romero. You can call 768-3100. My cell phone number is 730-0967, and my office number is 836-0000.
All right, so people can get a hold of you.
As long as they don't call us after midnight.
Oh, no, yeah. He gave his cell phone out to you people. Show some respect, show some diligence. 6 o'clock, fine. 11:30 at night, probably not so good. I appreciate you doing that. When your constituents weigh in on issues before the city council, what's the most effective way for them to do that? It's interesting. I work with people a lot. A lot of times they've never reached out to an elected official, and they're not even sure what the process is. What's some advice for them?
They can give me a call, and we can talk to them. One of the issues that we deal with when it comes to land use issues, we cannot talk to anyone. Because if we basically talk to an individual on a specific land use case, then we as a council have to remand ourselves.
Yeah, so you can't make the big policy decision if
it's
you
a
talk to somebody.
quasi-judicial board, so at least respect that. If you're going to call us, but we always say if there's basically a complaint you have about a barking dog or traffic in your neighborhood, we're willing to take your calls at any time.
All right, very good. Now, for people that live in the Northeast Heights that don't make it to the west side, what should they consider doing? What do we call it? It's not a staycation, it's a stay day trip where you actually come across the river. What would you suggest? Restaurants, businesses, city attractions that they go check out?
I mean, you've got the Petroglyph National Monument. We definitely welcome people to visit that site. That's a beautiful site. And just drive out to the west side every so often.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the Northeast Heights really have no reason to go out there, but you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
We've come a long way over the years, and we will continue to strive in making Albuquerque and Albuquerque's west side a much better place to live.
All right.
And we're going to try to recruit you to come back to Albuquerque's west side.
All right, very good. I've been there. I spent a lot of time there. Well, that's it for this segment of the ABQ show. We want to thank City Councilor Ken Sanchez for visiting with us. Councilor, it's been great.
Wally,
really appreciate you talking with us. Stay tuned for the next segment. When we come back, we are going to talk about the history of buildings in Albuquerque, particularly downtown. You're watching the ABQ show here on ProView Networks.